Okay, let's see. I believe we are live. Let me confirm. All right, there it is. Okay, looks like we're just going live. Hold on.
Check, check, mic check.
Mic check, mic check.
1 2 1 2.
1 2 1 2. Da, 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 da. Yep, we are live. Let me just make sure we get people. Okay. We are live. So this is C, just letting the audience build a bit. And if we experience some technical problems, to be expected, right? Let me just refresh here. And we should be good to go. Stop, refresh, reload. Okay, let's go with that. Okay, everybody can hear, right?
Check,
give me a thumbs up if you can hear. Got Alita listening from New York. Isabel from Arkansas. Joey, hope I'm pronouncing that. Wee listening from Maryland. All right, we're getting the thumbs up. All right, appreciate it, everybody. Here I am, C, Real Progressives. Obviously, I got the branding. It's always important to market and share. Hit the share button, get some more people watching. And I'm over here in DC on the East Coast where it's freezing. So hopefully we have some conversation here that'll keep us warm. Now, I'm about to introduce a new member of Real Progressives. His name is Matt Stueck, and he is a ex-professional stand-up comedian. But like many of us, he was
not the Trenton train, boss.
Activated. He was activated during the Bernie Revolution and started live streaming, started to get out there and try to support the movement.
I told him like 10 times.
The reason I'm here and not him speaking right now is because he is on a train. And so if we experience any technical problems, to be expected, I'll be here and wait for him to come back and we'll keep it going. Just like the revolution. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Matt Stueck.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Thank you for having me on today, C. Thanks for doing this for me. I appreciate it for our first broadcast.
Hey, no problem. Glad to do it, my friend. So tell me, why are you on a train? That's the first question everybody wants to know.
Well, I have a long commute back and forth from New York City, so we're going from New York City to New Jersey. So that's why I have the time to live broadcast only on a train. So I apologize to everybody out there. It's going to be a lot of Matt Stueck on a train.
Well, I don't think you should apologize. Anybody who's going to take the time to broadcast from a train should be thanked, all right? Because you're finding any opportunity to get the message out.
Yeah, and there'll be lots of distractions and audience participation that I really I'm scared about. As I'm yelling about politics on the train. So I already had to move my seat as there was audience participation I was not called for.
My good friend Laurel Bosma says hi, C, and Joey Garrett says hey, Matt, in the comments. So you're already being welcomed.
Excellent.
So tell us, before we get into any topics of interest that you want to bring up, can you give us just a little bit of who you are and expand upon my intro?
Yeah, how I came to Real Progressives. I was invited by your fearless leader, Steve Grumbine, who he said, this is, and I'm quoting and paraphrasing Steve, had seen me live broadcast originally. I'm sure he saw other live broadcasters that I was one of the early ones on there trying to live broadcast about the dirty DNC and giving out my warnings. And I tried a bunch of different methods, podcasting, live streaming, starting our own website, starting our own Facebook page. So we did everything. We were doing everything towards the movement to try to use the social media to sort of break this kind of brainwashing paradigm that exists. So, and that's why I think this is so important. Real Progressives is so important to try to break this paradigm.
Okay, good. And you get extra credit for using the word paradigm.
Yeah, and someone would have looked that up for me and make sure I'm using that properly.
Of course, I would spell it literally, pair of dimes, right? When you're trying to sound intelligent, to be like, yeah, it was a pair of dimes. Used to be a couple of quarters, and then we moved on. You don't know what you're talking about, do you? No,
I was totally busted on that.
Yeah. All right, so this is not your standard, typical intro, but I think the best way to find out about somebody as they're coming on board anything, especially Real Progressives, is to talk about some of the hot items, the topics that really appeal to you, things that really get your mind cranking and it makes you want to get out there and do something. What are some of your key triggers in the progressive movement right now?
Yeah, let's get into it. I think today the topic that I wanted to start with was the Russian hacking and the amount of propaganda that is going out there and I want to use the term brainwash because Steve used it earlier on a broadcast when he was doing from his car, just about economics. And I think there's also obviously brainwashing going on when it comes to this Russian hacking event or the myth that's being created, and it's being done by almost every level. From Obama to your local senator to CBS News to New York Times. You can pretty much see it everywhere, and it's been debunked at the highest level by the people that we follow the most, by Hedges. Chris Hedges just put out a great article this morning on TruthDig. Greenwald, Assange, all the respected, left activists completely against this. And yet, in this time of social media, we're just being inundated by this propaganda. And I want to just show you something real quickly so that so you know what I'm talking about. So that's the cover. This is the cover of the New York Times. It says Cyber Warfare Inc. Now, I haven't even read the article yet, so I haven't at the time. We talked about this too, about this hearing, this 3-hour hearing. I haven't watched that 3-hour hearing. That was just a lie fest from the beginning. So, there's just so many mounds of brainwashing we have to go through, and that's why Real Progressives is so important, is if we can get people out of this bubble that they're trapped in when it comes to the information that they're receiving. And so you said something really funny before we started the broadcast. We want to talk about serious issues, but we want to keep it light, which is I know it's a really hard thing to do, but it's a really important thing for me because we don't have to me, we don't have that as a go-to thing or go-to media right now. So I think it's really important to sort of do this, but hopefully in a way that we're going to make people also laugh and give them hope. As we have an announcement. I apologize.
Yeah, well, Jane Doe asked in the comments, and I apologize if you can't hear us over the announcements, but we'll barrel through. But Jane asked in the comments, if we ask questions in the comments, can you show them on the air? So I'm posting that right now so that you can see that Jane Doe, if that is your real name, we can do that. So we do encourage people to put the comments, and we'll get to them as best as we can. I'm sorry, Matt, please continue.
And that's really important to the show is interaction. We love comments. That really helps guide us and keep us going. And that's what I've always done with my broadcasts. When I did live broadcasting, I always pretty much beg you to share, and I beg you to comment because it really helps. Thankfully, again, you're here, C, but it's a very difficult thing to do live streaming. People need to know that your interaction is the key to the broadcast. It's not the broadcaster, it's you, the people watching. So anyway, getting back to what we were talking about, it's sort of just mind-blowing what's going on. Chris Hedges wrote a great article, and I just want to paraphrase some of the points that he made that sort of blow your mind that maybe you're not thinking about. Or maybe I should say with Chris McAfee. Chris McAfee is the creator of virus software. He said there was no tracing elements to bring this Russian. I mean, there were tracing elements that brought it to Russia, but no Russian hacker would ever leave those things to be traced. So again, if they're finding things, no expert hacker would have left those traces. When you talk about the malware that was found on the some of the systems, the one, especially particularly in Vermont that they were talking about that was Russian, was like way old. So I mean, there are many different how do I say the word, elements to this case that just doesn't exist, that they're telling you not the truth. So I don't want to say it. Like, it's really funny when you turn on CNN and you get 6 people on there talking about hacking that know nothing about hacking. Like, I cannot believe I'm watching a broadcast with 6 people who know nothing about. Now, I'm admitting to you, I'm not a hacking expert, but a guy like McAfee is. Assange is. We can
Right.
sort of trust where that information came from. There are, Greenwald is telling you that these people are lying. Now, yet on every major corporate media network, you're going to hear, no, this is true, that the Russian hacking is so crucial. And what I say to you is a couple points. If it was the Russian hackers, well, number one, Podesta is just an amazing Russian spy because he did a hell of a job setting this whole thing up. And number two, they said that this Russian hacking actually hurt Clinton's credibility. And I'm thinking that would have required a time machine. They would have had to gone back in time to actually hurt her credibility.
I actually saw that. Yeah. I saw your post on that.
So I have a hard time with a lot of the elements of or the stories that they're trying to create, and it's very repetitive in nature, and it really reeks of propaganda. And I'm sort of amazed that I'm alive at this time, 2017, where propaganda still works. It shouldn't be able to work, and yet I don't. In my lifetime, I'm 50 years old. I've never seen anything like this as far as propaganda. Now I'm sure someone has a better example, but I've never seen anything more. Just pervasive than this Russian hacking story.
Yeah. Well, it gets confusing when, the little narratives that they put out in the mainstream media about like everything, including the hacking. You get this narrative that the Russian hackers did it. The Russian hackers did it. And then you start reading the details, right? And they always make it gray. They always like, well, we see that they wanted Trump to win and they were happy that he won, but we don't know exactly what they might have done to influence the election, but we know that they were very happy with the way that it went, and you start to go down that rabbit hole, but you don't ever find that thing that says Russia actually set out this whole thing to break in and make up lies and you know what I mean? The truth is much different from the narrative.
Are you talking about actual evidence? Yeah, that's what we're
yeah, exactly. I'm not allowed to say that. People, we're looking for actual evidence, and then I go missing. Screen goes blank. So you got to edge into it. But yeah, it's different. The truth is much different than the perception that these little press releases and everything else try to put out there. And the people who only read these little snippets from the mainstream media, they walk away with that knowledge and they go, oh yeah, it was the Russian hackers. I just saw it. I just looked at the paper and there it was in the headline. Did you read? Did you actually read?
No, and that is really, you really sort of closed the conversation before I wanted to, but that, which is that we said that we always think on the same length, the same wavelength. So that's exactly how I was going to close this. That's the issue. And I don't know how to address it because people do live in this bubble and they are easily brainwashed. And the way I was going to close this is that I try to talk to regular people and say, okay, what do you feel about this? And you do get that answer. Well, I'm pretty sure it was a Russian hacking. And then I tried to go into the details. Well, how could that be? Doesn't it seem like the FBI did an investigation in the DNC servers? Doesn't it seem like there has been regime changes in the past? And I'm doing the we're doing a speed reading version of this when I'm talking to this person. Isn't it also amazing that Clapper has lied to us several times? And then the person will look at me and say this is pretty deep. He says, so if that's true, and all these agencies and the presidency and the media is all in collusion, then we have no hope. That's what this person said to me. So then we have no hope. And the key to this broadcast and all this live streaming is to create that hope that we can do something to change this, to get in the middle of that narrative. And that
looks like we may have lost Matt temporarily as we expected. Okay, he is back. Matt, we lost you for a bit there, but I think you're back.
Yeah. But that this Russian hacker narrative, and when you try to talk to people into sort of coming back and saying DNC, they really affected the election. We've always been regime changes. When you try to give them facts, you try to bring them back. That's what these broadcasts are about. Because the people out there, when you talk to them, like you said, and I'm trying to be very careful about how I use my words. They live in a bubble. I don't want to say they're out of touch, but they're in a bubble. They've been brainwashed. And when they do hear these news stories, and they rather just say, well, it was a Russian hacker. They rather just say that. Then we have to do all the research. Like we've said, research. You have to know about hacking. You have to know about, you have to read Greenwald. You have to follow Hedges. You have to know all these people. And the regular layperson may not. And that's why it's important to share these lives, to do your homework, or, you can to be activated. But these broadcasts are to activate. And you brought us home. I mean, really quickly. These broadcasts are to keep hope alive. And that sounds like, again, that I didn't mean to go with that cliche, but I'm saying these broadcasts say, don't give up hope. Keep fighting. Keep fighting with us, because you're getting this Russian narrative all over the place. CBS News, New York Times, everywhere you turn, and people, it does work. Now I have to study brainwashing just to figure, all right, how are we going to snap these people out of it? What's the method of bringing somebody back after just years of this pounding of this brainwashing? It can be sad, because when you go out there and talk to real people, and there is, and I want to say there is hope that in California right now, there's all these elections going on where people are telling me that, former Bernie delegates and people are getting into these offices. We have elections going on in California. People I'm friends on Facebook who are winning elections. So, there's hopeful news out there. It just doesn't, you're just not going to see it. So you need to find networks where you can go, okay, oh wait, we're winning things in California? You mean progressive movement is picking up in California? Yes. I can guarantee you that I have a number of friends that have won, offices there in the last couple of days. Hopefully we can get a full report on that. As I'm telling you this, more people will contact us and say, hey, this is great. I didn't know about that. So things like that are important as we try to balance between being funny, being informative, and then just keep being hopeful, because it's tough.
Well, I mean, that's a good point. You talked about people are in this bubble and they've been brainwashed. It's like you could call it a bubble bath of misinformation. And Lloyd Hart, he says most people in America hide their true opinions. And so you're dealing with two challenges. One, to get the information to people who are open or not open and closed to it, but then others who are like-minded or completely differently minded, but they're not expressing their true opinion, like Lloyd is saying. And we saw that in the election. While everybody was talking about Bernie and Hillary and all these things, and everybody was anti-Trump this, anti-Trump that, there was an entire population of people who were just sitting silently in wait, not talking, not saying that they were supporting Trump, not saying that they were going to go vote for Trump, not saying that they were pissed off being called, deplorables and all these other things. They said, wait. And then on election night, they got up, they made their voices heard, and everybody was shocked. It was like, Tyson knocked out Holyfield. What happened? Right? And what happened was they were sitting there silently, not feeling comfortable enough to express their true opinion. So that's a huge challenge. We need to know exactly what people are thinking, and not only silence, or support the voices we like, and only silence the ones that we don't, because you're never going to get a real representation of what's going on in the real world.
And that's a really good point from whoever just said that, or who's the person who said that. It's a really good point. And that goes back to the things that we've talked about that we call sabermetrics, or metrics, things that you just couldn't, that were intangibles this time with the Trump win. And it is, like she said, people are afraid to express their real feelings and their real opinions. And that's why you do need something like Real Progressives, so people can say, okay, I'm not alone, or there are other people who think like me, and I'm going to take step and to join a group or whatever. So that broadcast.
Well, I missed that announcement, and you're gonna have to let me know so I get off. I don't want to miss my stop. But but part of the problem, or much of the problem, is that people who have their solid opinion, we've all had these social media fights, right? With somebody, everybody knows who's a progressive, that we fight more with people on the left than people on the right, Because the right, they have their ideology, they know where they come from, and it's binary. It's sort of like an on and off. We get it. We get where you're coming from. But it's these nuances and these different factions on the left that we're constantly fighting under Facebook and Twitter and everything else. And you get these, the Bernie Bros versus the Hill bots and all these things. And the problem, I don't mind differences of opinion. What I do mind are these people so stuck in their knowledge. They're brainwashed. I call it train washed, because people are train washed to believe. There are a lot of train metaphors today. So, but they get trained one way, whether as a child, their belief system, whether it's religion or politics or whatever, and they swear that they chose that, right? I chose this, even though they were trained. And so when you're trying to have an intelligent conversation, you get these roadblocks, and people keep saying the same old things, same old things, same old things. So how do you, since you presented the problem, since you presented the challenge of dealing with people who are brainwashed, what is our solution? What is our tact, our strategy to actually break through those walls that really have no desire to listen, almost refuse to listen to critical thought, common sense, and just rationality? Well, looks like we may have lost Matt again. So we will stay tuned. I think he'll be coming back shortly. Let me look over some of the comments. Joey likes my train wash, thought that was perfect. Well, I think you're perfect. How about that? Some people are mentioning that Tatsu, who is, of course, the world famous RP member here, he's done very detailed analysis of the Podesta emails and the DNC hacking. Check out those videos. They're linked to from Real Progressives as well on our YouTube channel. So check those out. Tatsu talking about the Podesta emails and the DNC hacking and exploring the breadcrumbs of reality versus this Russian conspiracy narrative that continues to go out there. Let's see. Linda 4 says, my good friends I will yell at. My good friends I will yell at in a good way. It's acquaintances that I speak civilly to. They don't always get my humor. Yeah. Well, communicating, that's a good point. Communicating online without the benefit of audio and video, you can't see the faces. and everything else. And we've all been trapped in text hell, trying to correct a misunderstanding. And in the age of politics, now that we're all activated, that becomes even more of a challenge. So in the perfect world, we would all just, I'm going to make that one of my New Year's resolutions, to back off of texting and use more FaceTime or any one of these things so that we can have better communication. Alita Weaver says, when I criticize left people, people think I am a dumpster. Oops, I mean, and that goes to what we were saying before. Laurel says, I've seen threads of people calling Glenn Greenwald's articles propaganda when he is a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. Yeah. This reminds me, Laurel, I posted, and again, as soon as we get Matt back, we'll bring him on board. He is on a train, so he probably went under a tunnel or something and lost reception, but hopefully he'll be able to reconnect shortly. But I posted something. It was from, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, but it was from a source that is behind the scenes associated with the right. It's more conservative. And I forget what it was, but let's pretend it was from Fox. Okay, it wasn't from them, but it was. And my point to post the article was because the content was, wait for it, true. The content was accurate. The content was absolutely verifiable, and it checked out, right? So somebody on my left, my far left, who I voted for Jill Stein in the election, and in a future live stream, I'm happy to go into that whole process of how I got there. But this person voted for Hillary Clinton, and rather than read the article that I posted, which was all accurate information, okay, the person immediately challenged the article because of its source, right? That's what we're dealing with. We've become so, partisan and faction that we don't care whether the information is true. We only care where it comes from. Now, what does that sound like? The Russian hacking, right? No one has said the information is inaccurate. They're only saying, well, we don't like that they did it. I mean, they do it. The closest thing that to my knowledge, I should preface, that anyone has come to saying that the information released was false is them, obfuscating that, well, these were hacked emails and we don't want to deal with that. We don't want to deal with that. We got Matt back. Welcome.
I was just talking to myself. I was just talking to myself for 20 minutes. I thought I was still broadcasting. So I don't know what you said. You don't know what I said. that wasn't going to happen.
Well, I was just waiting for your anxious return, and talking about I posted an article that came from a news source that is traditionally associated with the conservative side, and my friend who voted for Hillary Clinton immediately objected to the source, never read the article, never considered the content. They were more concerned that, hey, this is a right-leaning publication. Why are you using it? And so I was making that connection, not knowing I was going to, that's exactly the same thing with the Russian hacking, where everybody's going, oh, the Russian hacking, boo, they hack, mean Russia, rather than focusing on the content and saying, oh, look at everything that these people did during the election. So rather than focus on the failures of the DNC, they are going, look at who is reporting the failures of the DNC, and we don't like Russia. It's a great magic trick that at least real progressives haven't fallen for. But now that you're back, if you remember where you were 20 minutes ago, it's all yours.
I can't, but you make a good point about again getting into conversations. Yeah, we're going to have different news sources. Sean Hannity did a half-an-hour interview with Assange, so you're going to have to use news sources you again might feel uncomfortable with. It doesn't mean that it bastardizes the person on either side. So we got to sort of stay away from that type of games. And sort of use whatever source is available. I think most of us are willing to use whatever source is available at this point, because we're at a point of desperation. I mean, that's where I feel like this has to occur. We have to. What we're doing with real progressives is that important. I'm greatly concerned with the level of propaganda that's being sent around. It's sort of mind-blowing. Am I going to sit there and read that New York Times magazine? Am I going to sit down and watch the 3-hour hearing on the Russian hacking? Do I have the time to do that? Do I have the time to invest to prove the inconsistencies and to let everybody know? It's so difficult. There's so much. And that's why it's really important that we come on and do these broadcasts. Sorry, apologize for that announcement.
Well, we have a question. We have a question from Stacy Hendricks, where she asks, the DNC, how can we plan ahead for next time?
The issue with the DNC is that there hasn't been any true investigation. Yeah, I had this huge discussion on, why are we having a hearing? Why are we having a hearing about why isn't the DNC bringing blood up against Congress? And the people are like, oh, that would never happen. They would squash this as subpoenas, so that's probably never going to happen. This is a dicey area that, again, we need a progressive leader. Some people are going to argue Keith Ellison, yes, no. Because now we're going to get into a whole vetting process with him. But the obvious problem is internally that DNC is still run by, you can pick the word you want to use. That's corporatocracy, whatever word you want to make up that makes it palatable for people. But the people running the DNC are not progressives right now. It's a neoliberal narrative. I hate throwing out those words, but it's a fact. So I would say to you, the person who said that is, I try to go to all meetings. I will go to a Green Party meeting. I'm a Green Party member, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to not talk to progressive Democrats where I live, which is New Jersey. I'm going to go to as many meetings as I can and meet as many people to see what the actions are we take, because there's many other. I mean, the core issues are we all.
Okay, it looks like we're losing Matt again. Matt, if you can hear me, we can't hear you and your screen is frozen. So we'll wait for you to come on back. Kat Mahue says, we need to lead ourselves. No one is coming to save us. We must save ourselves. Well, yeah, and that is true. And even, Bernie supports that. Matt, you are back. I was just responding to a great statement from Kat, where she says, and Matt, you're gone again. This is like a bad relationship, and we just don't know how to quit. I don't know how to quit you, Matt. So we need to lead ourselves. No one is coming to save us. the message that Bernie was saying throughout his entire election was that, you know, it takes millions of us to come together to make change, to make real change. You know, he said it's not going to come from some leader. You know, to Kat's point, you know, it's not going to be some one person who's going to rain down all of this stuff and change the world. It's really all of us from the bottom coming up and forcing this change. And Bernie was always reminding people that it was not about him, not about him. And we would, Bernie, Bernie, Bernie. He's like, settle down, settle down. It's all of us, you know. That's my bad Bernie impression. But he was always trying to remind everybody it was about the revolution. He wanted to activate the millions needed to make change rather than be some, you know, cult of personality figure. And he's always cognizant of that. And that's what happened after he lost the nomination. That was just a battle. Matt, you're back. I don't know if you're landscape or not, but let me check.
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, and again, I got to apologize. I'm on the train. Hopefully, this is all going to be fixed as I get a better microphone and to decide how we're going to not lose me left and right. This is a first time shot at this, everybody. So, audience out there, we apologize for these early glitches.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to go landscape your portrait right now. There you go. All right. Well, you are back, sir.
All right, so, you know, let's just go over the Chris Hedges article. So Chris Hedges puts out an article, I guess, yesterday, January 8th, basically 4 points, right? Number one is Chris Hedges. Let's remember who this is. Chris Hedges. I think this is everybody we can get behind. I don't think anybody has any arguments about Chris Hedges. Well, you know, I think everybody's vetted Chris Hedges as maybe one of our number one guys. Number one, he says, there's no fucking proof to this Russian hacking. Zero. They don't have anything. This is Chris Hedges, okay? This is not Matt Stueck, Chris Hedges. Number two, this is a narrative in order to expand. This narrative is created to go after this kind of media, this grassroots media that we're doing right here. That's why this Russian hacking thing is being put out there, to stop this kind of progressive, independent media. That should scare the F out of everybody out there. That's why we do these broadcasts. Number three, expanding NATO to sell more arms. If they can get more people involved with NATO to fight the Russians and, you know, get this narrative going, they can sell more weapons. Number four, and more importantly, as what we just talked about, Chris Hedges, number four, the reason why the Russian hacking narrative is being pushed like propaganda, to cover up the dirty DNC. Okay, so those are the 4 points from Chris Hedges, not Matt Stueck, that is really crucial for people to understand. And again, this goes back to another conversation, people losing hope out there, people being brainwashed. This is our job to report the news in a fashion that might be more palatable, again, for people, to make it. And we talked about this, Chris Curtis. We've talked about this, making it authentic. You know, there's no profit motive behind this. We're doing this. You know, people ask me about Snowden and the sign. I'm like, these people give up their lives. What do you think the purpose was of these leaks? And you think this guy wants to live in an Ecuadorian embassy for the rest of his life? You think Snowden wants to be on the run in Hong Kong? These guys are heroes. And what we're doing in Real Progressives, that it's a risk. You're putting yourself out there. So again, it comes back to, you know, I really believe these live streams are important. We got to keep doing it. We're just, you know, people forgive us. We are just getting used to the technology. We're using different apps. I'm going to have to buy a better microphone. We're going to have to work on things. But what we have to leave with is how important these broadcasts are, and that they will get better, and we will get better at this, and we will share, and we've got to grow the movement. It comes back to the other point. Where do I stand? I was going to say I am with the Green Party officially in New Jersey, but I swing. Whoa, hey, but I can define myself progressive Democrat to Green Party. I'm somewhere in that middle area. That's just where I am. I enjoy, and this is going to come back to a long conversation we had last night, Curtis, is that I enjoy Bernie's strategy. Now, again, that's going to open up, a whole can of controversy. But people see it as, people call it as, oh, you can't just follow one person. And it says on my Facebook page, look, if you come to talk trash about Bernie Sanders, you better be a 74-year-old hero on some other planet. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just not going to sit with me. So, and we talk, it's all strategy, and people don't like to hear that this is strategy. They have a problem with it. Going back to the question, she said, what do we do about the DNC? It's a real issue. I'd rather go third party. I'd rather go green. I'd rather go progressive independent. I think, but again, the money is the factor. It's again, another thing I put on Facebook. When people, I believe the president-elect is sick. I truly believe he's a sick man, but it's the system that is sick. We need to cure the system. If we don't cure the system, you're going to continue to have fascist-like people get elected who tweet all day about Meryl Streep. That's going to happen.
And we're coming up. That's an excellent point. We're coming up to the hour mark. I know we started a little bit late, but just want to be cognizant of time. And you make a good point about what we need to do and who or what Trump actually represents in terms of he's a person, but the system is what we're fighting against. And I think for a lot of people, that's why they were able to vote for certain candidates. They painted the whole election, Hillary versus Trump. But a lot of people like myself voted for Jill Stein. Other people voted for other candidates. And the reason was because one of the reasons was because we really understood that whoever was in that role, it wasn't the failures of the system. They didn't represent the failures of the system. The system still needed to be corrected. And so people changed the question from voting for Trump or voting for Hillary to who do I vote for to change the system? Because that is the real problem. And from that, the election changed. Once you made it an election between you're either for the system or against it, rather than two people, that's what defined the shocking. It wasn't shocking to all of us because we said, if you don't put Bernie in, you're going to lose. Bernie would have beaten Trump.
And I have to be honest. When I first I said the same thing as you. When I firstly Clinton won, I said Trump's going to win. And then when he had some of the scandals towards the end, I said, well, maybe Clinton will pull it out. But I also was like you. I truly believe that Trump was going to beat her. I truly believe that because, and this is what's going to come down to is momentum. And I'll Facebook about this all the time. Clinton had zero momentum. Trump had some. Bernie had it all. And again, we can argue these points, but there are metrics to be measured. He raised money that's never been raised before. This money is crucial to a sickness of the system. He raised about $250 million, which is exactly the amount you need to run a campaign in America. Whether you agree with that or not is not the point. That is the way America works. The system is sick. Until we can change that system, we're going to get people like Trump. That's just the bottom line. So,
yeah, Lloyd Hart says Bernie ran as a Democrat in the age of the independent voter. And to your point, Bernie was inside the circle of politics, right? So I'm outside of the circle of politics. So my actions are going to be completely different. My strategy and my tactics are completely different, and they have a different goal. But if I am a Bernie who is actually inside the party, right, and trying to change it from within, strategy completely different. Strategy is like, I'm going to try to get that platform changed. I'm going to try to push the focus of the DNC more left, right? I'm going to try to make the minimum wage number that they keep pushing down. I'm going to push that up. And everybody, I think, logically would say, of course, when you're trying to change a system, you want operatives both outside and inside. And if you're inside, if I'm working within a system, I'm not running around going, you know what, I'm tearing you all down, right? I'm going to tear you all down. And you all got no. You're going to have a more measured strategy working within the system. When you're outside the system, you're going to be adding that fire, that pressure. You know, all of you guys, you're not giving us what we want, but it's working collectively together, both inside and outside, and realizing Bernie was our inside man. He was our inside guy, and he needed us, activated millions of us to work on the outside. So expecting him to go, you know, I'm going to run independent third party and we're going to tear down the system, that would have failed miserably. He would have been shut down. His voice would have been silenced. They would have just put him aside and said, okay, next. We saw what they're capable of doing. And they spent an entire election trying to figure out a way to go, I think he's an atheist. Let's put that out there. Let's talk about that. I mean, you see it in the emails. Can we use that? Can we use this religion against them? Where the DNC is supposed to be, you know, not partisan. They're not supposed to be picking the candidate. They're supposed to allow the people to pick the candidate. So his strategy needed to work within that system because he was inside of it. Us on the outside, we have it easy. So we can tell people to do whatever we want to do, and we can say and have the freedom to be as partisan as we want. And people who don't appreciate that nuance, I think are sort of missing the dynamic that Bernie has been talking about for decades. So he has a true understanding of what it means to be an independent and what it requires to get inside that democratic nonsense and tear it apart from within.
And on that point, when you talk about Bernie, you know, he's been doing this for years. If you go back to one of his lectures in Harvard in 1994, he said some really, again, deep things that maybe he's afraid to say today. And basically what he said, and it's really important to the real progressive audience to listen to his lecture. He said, look, the peace movement and the women's movement and movements of social justice, you're all going to fail if you don't team up together. If you're going to separate your movements, then you're going to fail. Now, I don't know how he could have said that today, and I think he tempered his speech in a different way. But that's why at Real Progressives we have to come together, at least on the agenda of sticking with being progressive. I mean, we can do all this other vetting, but you're going to have to pick some, candidates to back. And the reason why I bring this up again is, tonight I'm sure we're going to have lots of broadcasts here on Real Progressives that you should tune into and share. Bernie Sanders is going to be on CNN. Again, and why am I telling you this? Because I want you to remain hopeful. Because the propaganda that's being pushed around, and we only have a number of voices between Hedges and Greenwald and Assange, Snowden. We only have a couple, and that's why Real Progressives is important, because you need to have a grassroots media that is truly authentic and truly bringing a message and letting you have your voice below and letting you comment whether you disagree. And eventually down the road, maybe bring dissenters on and go into those areas. You got to have the debate, right? Bernie always said, let's have the debate. Let's make it a debate. You can't be afraid to debate on these issues. And that's the key to Real Progressives. And so I want to, like you said, we didn't do it today as successfully as we'd like to be, but, talk about really tough issues, but keep it light and keep it hopeful at the end of the day. Hopefully we have a message, to at the end of the day, how do I stay hopeful then? What are we saying? Well, we're doing really well in California. Progressives are winning. So I want you guys to keep hopeful. And at the same time, don't forget to share. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to tell your friends about Real Progressives. And it sounds like we're selling something, but it won't be successful. Trust me, I've done this for 8 years. If you don't get on board, if you don't share stuff, if you don't open your own page to be followed, it's not going to happen. Trust me. And that's going to be a repetitive message that, it's unfortunate it has to be done, but you're going to see it done on every broadcast. So we really, it's almost like those charity, those parts where people have real grassroots stations like, hey, this is the month we have to do our fundraising. You're like, oh God, I don't want to listen to this station. They got to fundraise every month. But I'm telling you, people, if this is grassroots, man, and this is how it's done. and it requires a lot of work and a lot of dedication.
Okay.
And there's ton. Yep.
Well, I mean, we're coming up. I think we're about an hour here. Let's ask first of all, is this a good place to end? Commenters, viewers, did you get your money's worth, which was 0 pennies? And is there something that you wanted us to expand on that we covered that you want more clarification of? And Matt, were there any topics that you wanted to cover that you thought we didn't get a chance to because of the breakups?
Well, yeah, obviously, I've been busting to get on live since the secret vote to remove the ethics committee, which was, again, how spooky and creepy to start the Congress with by removing ethics in a secret meeting. I mean, it couldn't be more spooky. It couldn't be more exorcist-like. Where are the memes with Linda Blair, and the vomits, and just like who has the nerve to the night before they start Congress to get rid of ethics? I don't know, and you said this is your line. It sounds completely unlikely what it was. It was completely unethical. You didn't see Rand hear about his Russian hacking, but you don't hear about, Republicans want to get rid of the ethics committee. Then we had the repeal of Obamacare, right? And again, we can go back and forth about Obamacare, but it is going to hurt people. And it is unethical to do it the way they're doing it. The guy who went to remove the ethics, he is the head of the judicial committee in the House of Representatives. So if you haven't heard all this stuff, it's and I told you see that it reminds me of this video that's viral on Facebook about this poor black woman who was brought into court without any pants. And the woman was like, am I in the Twilight Zone? What the F is going on here? I need to talk to somebody. This is outrageous. Yeah. And, stuff like this goes on every day in society. And it's absolutely outrageous what's happening in Congress. It's outrageous what happened to that woman. And people have to stand up and be heroes. And that's what this, again, that's what this station is. It's all of us standing up. Like someone commented, it's all on us. It's we. So don't point your finger at Bernie Sanders or Jill Stein. Point your finger back at yourself. How much are you doing? How much are you doing for this movement? That's the key. And we knew the Republicans were going to be outrageous. We had no doubt about it. But no one's covering the outrageousness of it. We're getting nothing but Russian hackers and articles on that, and none of it's true. None of it. There is no evidence. There is absolutely no evidence. I told you about McAfee. There was 4 points of McAfee. Just real quick, he said, and this is the guy who wrote some of the the security software that we use. So he's a cyber expert. Okay, and this is from RT. Number one, they said they used a Russian keyboard. Nobody who was a Russian hacker who was breaking into the system would have used a Russian keyboard. That would be the first thing they wouldn't do. They wouldn't be able to trace it to Russia. You would figure out a way to not have it be traced to Russia, which is what they said was also another way that they found out who it was. He said some of the software, some of the actual malware they have used had Russian written in it. He's like, well, you would never leave that trace in there again. These are all like very novice-like attempts at someone pointing the direction towards the Russians. So again, this is not me talking. This is experts. This is Assange. This is McAfee. So they're in Congress. I hate to say Obama is caught up in this narrative. And you have to question why. And it's really, again, to brainwash the people. So, again, that's why it's important. That's why Real Progressives is important. That's why these broadcasts are important. And there's a ton of topics that we could go into and besides that. But I think those were the main ones that we really wanted to hit today. So
great. Well, this has been an active intro. Matt wasn't just introducing himself by talking about his biographical background. He introduced himself by commenting on things that are actually going on that we're all commenting on in one way or another. And as I always say, I think that's the best way to get to know somebody. So we will be back in the future covering some more topics. Hope you guys enjoyed the broadcast. Sonny Crockett, thank you. I appreciate it. Tubbs is about to sign off. And we really appreciate you all, chiming in for our live stream. And we do encourage you to share, because we want to get the voice out. You can see the links on Facebook and all the links going to our webpage and YouTube, etc. Get the word out. If you can't contribute with a penny or $1 or whatever you have, simply sharing is huge. It's huge. We want to get that voice out and reproduce that fist in the fire. All right, real progressives. But thank you, Matt Stueck. Welcome aboard, sir.
Feel free to add and follow me on Facebook as well.
Absolutely, Matt Stueck.
Yep.
And we'll update the post with links and all that good stuff. But we look forward to talking to you guys next time. Thank you for the comments, and we'll see you again. Ciao.